Oh, hi, my name's Archie, and I'm talking to you today about STE and volunteering. The idea for this stemmed from a chat at our weekly meetings. I was updating the team on a recent project who hadn't actually done very much work, but the benefit to the charity was massive because they did all the work and we guided them. We gave them a starter for 10. At the end of it, the benefit was very significant, and that led us into thinking that maybe that'd be a good topic to talk about, and that's what I'm going to do today. So, moving on, quick look at the agenda. Um, Going to tell you a little bit about myself and then talk a lot about Benefit. And towards the end, I'll talk about Tech for Good Alliance, which is our sister organisation who we work with closely. And then I'll just pull it all up at the beginning. So a little bit about me. So this is what I used to do. So that's me in the corner, as they say. This is the last project I did before I retired, and it's one of the biggest ones that I worked on, and one of the proudest ones that I worked on, because for us, it was a big project. I was working in the civil service at that time for an organisation called ACAS, and we were rolling out laptops and Windows 11 to the whole community, which is about 1,000 people in 10 offices throughout the country. And that was that was a good way to end with a good project. And that all went live just before COVID, as you would have it. And when COVID hit, the whole organisation was able to work from home virtually immediately, and within a week of us all being banned from the office. So that's what I did at the end. I started off as a trainee programmer a way back in the distant past, 1978, would you believe? And at ACAS was an IT service manager, so I'm very interested in service management. My first job was my favourite job, trainee programmer. Computing was brand new to me. Not many people were doing computing in those days. Only big organisations had computers, and that included the health service. My second favourite job is the one I'm doing now, working with STA. So that's enough about me. Um, just to say I'm not technical, and that might come up later on. It's my favourite excuse when anybody asks me a difficult question. And by the way, that was the last office we did, and it was about a stone's throw away from Newcastle United's football ground, St James's Park. So this is as academic as we get. This is me going back in time and working out where the word benefit came from. So it came originally from the Latin beneficare. I'm going to tell you in a minute what that means if you haven't done Latin. That moved to benefactum, and then it moved to the modern word benefit. So what does beneficare mean? So way back then, beneficare meant to make or to do well. That morphed into benefactum, which is a good or noble deed. And that morphed into benefit as we know it today, which is more about providing an advantage or a profit for an organisation or a company or an individual. But it can still mean sometimes a good deed. So that's what we're talking about today, all these different kinds of benefit. For example, so we've got three organisations we'll work with. They're all small. That's the area I'm most interested in. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about these three organisations, what we did and what the benefit was. So the first one was Slade Gardens Community Play Association. We're just talking about that this morning with our colleague Andy, who actually ran that programme. Slade Gardens is an adventure playground in London that's open to children, and on a busy day they'll have 100 people using that facility. What we did was, or what Andy did with his team, he delivered a digital registration platform. So in other words, when children come in, before this system, they would probably just write down their name on a piece of paper. Now it's all done on iPads, and that has produced some direct benefits. Most importantly, it's enhanced safety and security. Also, it takes less time and effort to manage the process, but also because it's all digital now, you get much more useful data out of the system in terms of who's coming through the door, who's leaving every single day. They can use that to help them manage their work going forward and plan going forward. And the nice touch, so else I'd like to add with the nice touch is that one of the volunteers actually had the idea, instead of getting the kids to remember and type in a password, they actually choose pictures off a screen in a particular order. So that's how they log in. And Andy thought that was a really nice touch. So that's 1 out of 3 Slade Gardens. Next one, Equipower Central Scotland RDA. Basically, this is an organisation that does riding for disabled children. And what we did there was quite a simple project. There's lots of different systems they're using to collect and manage data, and we consolidated all of that on the Microsoft platform. Benefits were relatively small but important to them. Saved them £700 a year on license fees. We consolidated all their data and processes. And most importantly, I think we improved their ability to work together and share data, which is always more tricky when they're all part-time and not all in the office at the same time. So that was definitely the most important benefit and the one I appreciated the most. And the nice touch here was that our PM on that, whose name is Jean, she loved the video that they did. So whenever we get new customers in, we always ask them to do a video to tell us a bit about the charity. And their video was the best one Jean had ever seen, and obviously it involved a horse looking backwards. So that was a nice touch there. The third by no means least, this is one of mine, and this is the most recent project I've worked on, and this is the one that really started me thinking about benefits, because it was a really simple project. But first of all, what did Dundee Bairns do? So basically, their vision is that all bairns, as they call them, and for those of you who are not Scottish, bairn is just a word for children. They want all children in Dundee to have opportunities to achieve their potential regardless of circumstance. They not only provide food for children, but they also provide lots of services. And the key thing that when they provide these services and events, food is provided, but they go there for the event and they get the food rather than going for the food. So it's all about respect and so on. The key benefits there were they had a warehouse, it was full of stuff. They're finding it really difficult to manage and count and keep a count of what was going on. So we gave them a very simple tool, which is one up from a spreadsheet, which is what they were using. And that enabled them to feel much more in control of the contents. And also because we advised them to do it, not just implementing a solution, but implementing it in conjunction with all their processes, they actually shut the warehouse for a week so they could review and implement improvements in the process. So everything was significantly improved. We spent maybe 2 man days writing the tool. They spent 6 months reviewing the processes and implementing it. And the nice touch there is, as I said, the customer did most of the work. We gave her the tool, but she turned it into a series of processes that fitted in with the way they worked. And that was really successful. The customer was really happy, and that's a great thing. So that's direct benefits. In other words, benefits that you would expect to achieve from that particular project. And I'm going to talk a little bit about indirect benefits, which are a bit more intangible. So for example, these are some definitions you might use for indirect benefits. Not directly tied to specific action or investment, often intangible or hard to measure, and it may require negotiation or future verification to demonstrate value. And it can include improvements in satisfaction, loyalty, or well-being. And I would say, in terms of the STA side of things, this is definitely a big indirect benefit for us in terms of satisfaction, loyalty, and well-being. It's a big thing, and that's just something in general working on a voluntary basis. It's really, really important. It makes you go back and do the next project. So some examples of indirect benefits for each of the projects I've covered already. So at Slade Gardens, the best thing there was that we've built a product, and that product can be used at any other organisation like that, especially if we're using children, we need to log them in and out of the system. So we've got a tool that, and it's actually in the process of being deployed at 2 other organisations right now. So having spent the work in building the tool, we can now redeploy it N times and everybody gets the benefit. It's still tailored to that organisation. So that's a big one for us because we've got a product we can use, and that's obviously very sustainable. Equipower, the key benefit, or one of the indirect benefits there is working closely with them and they working with themselves closely. There's an uplift in team spirit that gives them more confidence and enables them to make better decisions, and they just feel a little bit more positive every day they go into the office or the stables. And the last one, Dundee Bairns, definitely the indirect benefit there was, or slightly indirect, probably half and half, more control. They just feel more in control of what they're doing. That enables them to make better changes to the way they operate, and also gives them more confidence in making future decisions and looking to do other work to build on top of what they've done. In fact, they're actually talking to us at this moment about potentially revamping their website as a second separate operation. So that's indirect benefits. Tell a little bit about Tech for Alliance. This schematic draws a picture which shows you Scottish Tech Army on the left, your individually skilled volunteers that work in third sector projects. Our sister organisation is Tech for Good Alliance, and basically they do the same thing, but they work with partners, tech companies or organisations that have tech components within them, and they tend to work on specific projects for specific periods of time that deliver a product usually. So we work together. So what could happen there is Scottish Army may come across a project, but it's too big or too complex for us to work, and we then look for a partner through Tech Alliance to do the work. And here's an example of a very successful operation from Tech for Good Alliance, and it's this one. This is an interesting organisation. This is Turing Trust, which was founded by actually the family of Alan Turing. The founder is actually the man in the right-hand side. I think his name is James. If you just go to the bottom, I'll check. James Turing, he's the grandnephew of Alan Turing, and he set up the Turing Trust. And what they do is they repurpose old kit. So basically, they collect kit from companies and sometimes from individuals. They take it away, they strip it all down, they take all the data off it, and they started off initially sending all the kit back to Ghana, but now send it to lots of other places. And the reason there's a letter there is because they were so happy with the outcome of the project. They didn't send a letter, they did send an email, and I'm just going to read it because I think it's quite a powerful thing. And let me just read what James said after the project was over. And I quote, "I wanted to send a massive thank you for your incredible support in helping with the creation of our warehouse app. It's fantastic to finally see the idea come to life, and it's all thanks to your support. We knew that app would bring a big difference in how we do things, and at a conservative estimate, I reckon that by making us much more efficient, it will enable us to support an additional 12,600 students to learn vital IT skills every year. Beyond this, the environmental impact from the extra PCs we'll process will offset 196 tonnes of CO2 emissions, which is the equivalent of planting 490 trees or offsetting the annual carbon footprints of 20 Scots." They're based in Edinburgh, incidentally. The embodied energy savings created are also enough to power 48 UK homes for an entire year. And of course, all of this impact will be happening every year hereafter too. So truly, thank you so much for making this all possible. That's from James Turing, founder and great nephew of Alan Turing. And I should have said at the beginning, we developed a warehouse app for them. The same as Dundee Bairns, but a totally different scale, and that's why we needed to get the partnership in to do it. Totally different scale. So just recapping a little bit in benefits and thinking about what happens when you meet the potential clients at the beginning and what's it like when you review at the end. So quite often, especially for the small charities, there's a general lack of confidence about the technology they've got. Are they getting the best out of it? Do they know how to use it? So whatever happens, we always end up to some degree with they have a better understanding of their IT and how to use it, and that gives them more confidence about making future changes. And for example, that would range from Dundee Bairns to Turing Trust. They're now going to go on and with more confidence and make more changes to their systems. So that's being unsure about technology. Another thing, again, with small charities and probably all charities, it's always there, operational pressures. There's never enough people to do all the work, and several people will wear several hats at the same time. So anything that helps to give them more effective solutions that lead to more efficient processes will free up staff time, make it easier to train new staff when they come in, and it's also more scalable. So if they get more successful and provide more services, the systems that they put in place should be able to cope with that much more successfully. So these are all really, really important benefits that give the charity a future and the freedom to grow. Coming to the end now, this is the second last slide. Another thing we meet a lot, I call it too much data. So what's going on there is they've got lots of different systems, they're storing lots of different data in lots of different places. They get a bit confused and a bit lost. There's probably some duplication of data. So what we're looking to do there is consolidate the data, make the data more valuable so they can get better insights out of it, and make sure that whatever data we get feeds back into the process to make that more efficient and accurate. That leads to more confidence. Again, it's a little bit more confidence, better data, better decisions, better operations. And just for any of you who might have spotted, that's Joseph II, Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. And there's a story that he went to see Mozart's first outing of the opera. I can't remember the name of it now. It begins with an S. And he's said to have said afterwards to Mozart when he was asked what he thought of it, too many notes. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take away too many notes and give us just the right amount of data. And there's a nice little picture of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And in conclusion, uh, in summary, when we get it right, we make it well, we do good, and the charity and STA both benefit. And that's the end of the presentation.
Oh, thank you, Archie.
How was that?